Hey, I'm here today with Taylor Budd, and his main two things in life are, at least externally, are the Tao and breath. And he has a YouTube channel called TAO Lore, which is TAO space LORE, and an Instagram. What's your Instagram, Taylor?
It's the same thing. TAO, but no space. LORE.
All right, cool. So today we are going to talk about a few different topics having to do with um, accessing your inner children, and also, like, we'll see where this goes, but I wanted to also talk about the health of different organs and things like that. But before we start, could you tell us, the pre-ventilation sounds before you do a breath session? Could you,
What?
the pre-ventilation sounds and what they mean?
Oh, like you're talking about the first 18 breaths.
I mean, like, do you
It's
know?
like
Sorry, go ahead.
three. It's 3 rounds of 6 breaths, and
Hmm.
it's always like 6 different sounds. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was hoping that you could explain like the meaning of those different sounds, because yeah, there's such fundamental things about like releasing blame and thinking of yourself as the other. Could you explain those?
Oh yeah, yeah. From what people are calling the root chakra, that the first sound would be ah, and that that's more so pre-ventilating that fear. And that's why when people get afraid, they go, you hear it typically like, it's just like a knee jerk reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then one level up would be like you, and that's like more so the me and you duality. Pre ventilation. You're pretty much getting over those carnal desires and the desire to like point the finger, or not necessarily blame. It could be blaming people, or it could be outsourcing your contentment and your peace through others, and saying, "Man, if I had this person around or whatever." So you got you, you got you for that, and then soul is for your solar plexus, and that one kind of goes without saying. I guess just to stir up that energy, release that energy in the solar plexus, to where you can live um, above the heart and not from the heart down. Because most people live from the gut to the heart, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or the root to the, but to get above that, to release those knots in that area, the solar plexus, and that pancreas area and everything, the soul sound, and then E for your ether chakra, so that you can express your heart, express yourself, and then if you have any breaks or cracks in that, then there's somewhere where you're lying to yourself. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
a solid, consistent E, or you can play with the pitch a little bit, however you want. But if you get a solid E sound, then you're also vibrating the thyroid, the parathyroid, and your thymus when you get that E sound.
Mm-hmm.
So and then son
Okay, real
or
quick, can
son,
I interrupt you? What's your thymus?
your thymus gland is it's by your clavicle. It's
Mm-hmm.
Your thymus gland is what regulates it helps to regulate your sexual appetite. It keeps you childlike, to where you're more into, and also, if you look into AIDS, they say you lose T cells, and that's more so because the thymus gland isn't active. You see like gorillas beating on their chest to activate the gland that is their thymus, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just to keep that immune system up, keep you childlike. When you're childlike like that, then you have a greater immunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's you're really you want to vibrate the thymus, the parathyroid, the thyroid, and that's what that E sound will do. And so then it's sun or son, and son you can feel it in your nasal passage and in your face, and that's like gonna vibrate that midbrain, pituitary, pineal. You're gonna vibrate that area, and that's gonna take you into that state of there's nothing against me, and
Mm-hmm.
everything's coming to me to to promote my reclamation of peace. So
Mm-hmm.
no one's against. No one's against me. They're just here to make me better in a lot of ways. So the song makes that clear. If you've been making that noise and vibrating those glands and they're activated the way they should be, then your endocrine system will be firing, and then you'll be less likely to be vengeful or, point blame, all that type of stuff. But there's nothing against you. You realize, like, more so that everything is you. And then the psalm is similar to Om, and it's vibrating that whole, what people are calling the crown, is vibrating that whole halo region, that unshakable peace region where you're beyond body, beyond mind, and beyond all that. That just stimulates that oneness. That's why they say it's like the universal sound and everything. And yeah, it's really, if you ask me, they call your arms and legs limbs. So we're more so, upside down trees, and it's flipped. I feel like the root chakra is really the crown, and because if you look at a tree, the fruit comes from the top, from the limbs, the limbs. And I mean, our fruit, our eggs and seeds come from what people are calling the root. And if you look at the sperm, it looks the same as the spine and the brain, and it looks the same as a sprout. Like if you plant a seed in the ground and then it destroys itself to make itself into a tree, then it's that it's sprouting up from that seed, and it's like the same thing as the brain sprouting up. Making, you got the spine, and then the limbs sprout out off of that, and then you got your supposed root chakra with the fruit. So it's the brain itself is more so like the seed, and they could even call it a brain stem and everything. So it's like that's kind of more so how I look at it. Even though I know that the general consensus is reverse to that, it's just more so the way I see it is that, like, going that Om sound is kind of bringing you back to the root. To the origin, to pre-germination even.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just makes me, I don't know how to explain it, but the way you're explaining it makes me feel like that sort of heals the escapism that often goes along with the way that we think of, like, rising into the crown chakra. I don't know, it feels more rooted. That's all I can say. Like, yeah, that we're rooted in that feeling of, like, you're not your brain, you're not all those things, instead of being focused on all the quote unquote animalistic states and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do I say it? I really identified with what you said about being stuck between the gut and the heart. That state of being.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking from that place. It's like, if you were to look at life, like, if your consciousness, like, if you're constantly eating and then you're releasing sexual chi through orgasms, if you're constantly doing that, then all your blood is in those regions, in digestion and reproduction.
Yeah.
So, like, blood is, I always say blood is liquid consciousness, physical consciousness, however you want to look at it. So if your blood is always down there and your consciousness is down there, it's like you're looking out of the body from that place. It's like you're already in a hole looking out, like trying to see out from within the circumstance. So, people are in, they're living from a guttural level, and that's where a lot of parasite nests are in the body. So, but at this point, though, sorry to go a little bit off topic, but at this point, it's like people have, the parasites have crossed the blood-brain barrier because of the nanoparticles and the emulsifiers that have been, in the vaccines and in the food. So all that, and in the air. So all that, allows for parasites to go past the blood-brain barrier and then expand. So people have, not fully inhabiting those upper chakras anyway. Like, those are pretty much just, hijacked. And people they're operating from the heart down and the guttural level, and it's just what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, so what you've been talking about seemed to be exactly what's probably in like the last three books or PDFs that you've written. The last one was Lock Consciousness, and then Crown Tantra and 2020 Tantra. Is that it? Are those your last three?
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, let me see. Now, my last three was Lock Consciousness, Heal in a Day,
Oh,
and then I think Crown, because I wrote 2020 Tantra in 2018 in Germany.
uh huh.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so yeah, Crown Tantra, Heal in a Day, and then
So,
Lock Consciousness. Yeah.
so what is 2020 Tantra and Crown Tantra? Could you talk about what the difference sort of is between them? Obviously, like what the focus is in each of them.
Well, 2020 Tantra is more so about like you know the the presence, just remaining present, and people that have partners, and remaining present during sex and not getting lost in the concepts, and maintaining the circulation of the light or the blood, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to where you stay on top of the breath, and then you don't release all that sexual chi, and then you can be a better partner because you're not drained and you're not operating from a guttural level, and you're not you're
Yeah.
just not in an animalistic level, so you can have the empathy and the compassion
Yeah.
more consistently.
Yeah, you wrote that so clearly. Like it makes such beautiful obvious sense. So, yeah, and what about Crown Tantra?
Crown Tantra is more so about like the practical end. I mean, 2020 Tantra has practice in it, but Crown Tantra is more so about like your daily practical end, like where you just to maintain your awareness and to maintain the presence, to where you're doing what you can practically from moment to moment or breath to breath, to where you can always have that connection. It's like they always say, like the Tao is always within you, or whatever. That's always there. It's never gone. You're never off the path. But the awareness is always there. And Crown Tantra kind of just gives you a practical end of like, things that you can do or not do to maintain that connection and that awareness of the awareness. You know. Yeah.
Cool. And then lastly, real quick before we do finally talk about inner children, but your lock consciousness, what's that about?
That's just more so about it's got a practical side to it too, but it's more so just about like kind of like a collage of books, in a sense, where it's giving you all the perspectives that would really make you more inclined to appreciating the breath more, and just reflecting when you have the chance to, reflecting on your behaviors, to where you can discern what is the animated part, the animal part of me, and what is the consciousness. When is which will being applied,
Uh huh.
and and just how to navigate through the society, and to really, another thing, I guess, it harps on like the mechanical end of cleansing. A lot of people will take herbs and do enemas,
Mm-hmm.
and life will just continue to make them toxified, because they're only doing the mechanical end of the cleansing. They're not doing the
Definitely.
deep subconscious work. So you can do enemas and fast and take herbs and all that, and you're just going to retox unless you do the breathing and really get down to the subtle part of creation, and really face the source.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what is it's frustrating the way that most people like most content that's available online is just almost like performative in that aspect. Like they show you can do this particular breath practice or you can take these herbs to cleanse this, but it doesn't really touch on getting to that subconscious stuff. Yeah, and so you
Yeah.
never touch the source.
Yeah, it's all about timing. People will be like, oh, 72-hour fast, or 7-day fast, or 40-day
Yeah.
fast, and then it's like you still got to go on for infinity, bro. Like the rest of your spiritual existence. You still have to, it's like it's not over. There's no end to it. So it's like,
Yeah. And you can't
how
show
can
up and say like I've got this collection of success now. And yeah, like you said
yeah,
said a couple days ago, the thing about you're equidistant from like progression or regression. I'm not sure how you would say it, but um every new moment. But
yeah, it's like no one's above the slippery slope. It's like
yeah,
anybody can fall off. And it's just that practical incorporation of mindfulness and responsibility, accountability, and really getting to the depths of that accountability. Because a lot of people are just, they identify with their thoughts and their feelings and their human concepts. So it's they when you identify with that level, then your accountability is at that level. It's like people don't want to reach those other levels. So from a human point, it's a lot of limitation. It's like I'm the human, this is the floor, that's my dog. It's like a lot of separation there. It's like no oneness in that. So
mm-hmm.
when you're living in those limits, then it's a lot easier to point the blame or say like, oh, the system is against me, I can't change it, and make yourself
Totally,
more powerless. It's a lot
exactly.
easier to do that. So if people were to come to those other states of accountability and realization of the oneness, then they could see how like, oh, there's no separation here, and all my little moves make ripples, and the system is me. I am the system,
Yeah,
and and my own sincerity is what matters. It's not about any perception. My perception of myself or others' perception. It's more so like that internal sincerity and operating from that place instead of the idea of what should be or what shouldn't be.
mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That is such like a beautiful ceiling to come out of the whole like seeing the system as you rather than a giant oppressive thing is one of the most important things to get in touch with. So I'm gonna start with the inner child topic because there's something I've been feeling like my own I like identify so much with thinking logically about things and trying to think maturely, and that I've come to a point where I think I actually have some inner, like very young inner children, like 6-year old inner children that are having certain sorts of fits or emotional shutdowns and things like that that I can't have having like an impossible time connecting with, like a parent who sort of tries to talk all logically at their kid when that kid is distraught about something. I was babysitting the other day, and one of the girls, she was really upset, and her brother said to me, like in his like childish, I mean, like childlike, not childish, but awareness and wisdom. She was like, sometimes when she really, really likes someone and doesn't get to do something with them, she gets really upset like this. And like and it just made me think of myself and um, try, the recognition that like all these complications I've been making in my mind about like trying to force my thinking away from whatever inner child that's really unhappy inside of me is actually feeling. Touching back into being able to contact those inner children, not just the 6-year old, but any along phase along the way that's like really hurt, seems like a really important thing to be able to make contact with, so that you can have your childlike life force back. And so yeah, you don't have to respond particularly to my story or anything like that, but I just wanted to hear your perspective on being in contact, being your inner child in life, and how in different stages in your past, like you're still in the present, sort of acting out hurt aspects of different inner children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I really just I guess you do what you can while you can, and it's really no separation, from like you still, we don't grow older, we just grow taller, It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not you're never not the kid in there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like those opportunities arise where you get maybe malevolent feelings or whatever,
Yeah.
or and though that's the moment usually where you should do that inventory where you're like, man, how old am I behaving right now? And then once you kind of do that inventory where you're like, man, I'm really behaving from a 9-year-old place or a 5-year-old place in this when this trigger, and then you can kind of fully think that thought out. Like, why would I be? Because if you think the thought out fully, then you're going to get the full answer. A lot of people don't delve into the whole thought. They usually just block it out and distract immediately.
Exactly.
And then,
That's what it's been. Yeah.
yeah, because questions and answers, the answer is always in the question. So you have to fully think it out to get the full answer. And people are constantly distracted. So in those moments, it's more so like, okay, address this fully. Like, why do I feel this way? Okay, I was triggered by this. I was feeling this way. I was operating from an infantile level or a state of vulnerability or feeling like that I was mistreated without, having any power over the circumstance, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be. And then you can start to apply it to your real life. You do your mental Rolodex. Like, man, where did this come from mentally for me as far as my traumas and my experiences? Where is this really stemming from? Like, how did how did I get to this point in my life where I'm triggered by something like this, and I'm 30 years old behaving from this place?
Mm-hmm.
You see it all the time. You see it all the time. You know what I mean? Like people, it's an alcoholic world for the most part. Whether that's through bad food combinations or
Yeah.
or from pure alcohol. So it's an alcoholic world. People eating starch and ethanol, which is converted to alcohol by candida in the body. So people are alcoholics, and that comes from that bitterness, and that deep bitterness, it's coming from feeling like they had their sweetness robbed of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually from a childhood trauma. And a lot of people, drink because it comes in a bottle. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that infantile, like deep trauma that a lot of people, they don't even realize they'd be 60, 70, 80 years old behaving from an infantile place, and they just haven't addressed it. And that's like, it constantly rears its head though, and then they constantly distract, and then the body becomes more stiff. You indulge in more starch, which means to stiffen. It stiffens
Mm-hmm.
our clothes. So like, people are doing that. They become emotionally stiff, physically stiff, and then the body, like the Tao says, like plants when they're young, they're born tender and pliant, and when they die, they're brittle and dry. And it's the same thing with people. They dehydrate and become stiff and brittle as years go because
Mm-hmm.
of that indulgence stemming from the bitterness, because that feeling of someone took something from me that otherwise I would have. My sweetness has been robbed from out from within me, and now I have
Uh-huh.
to chase sweetness.
Yeah. That is, it does seem like a huge root of people distracting themselves is distracting themselves from that inner child feeling of hurt. It seems like one of the fundamental things that people run from
Yeah,
forever.
and it's like, yeah, and then they just continue to injure the child.
Exactly. That's what's so tragic.
Yeah, you know, it's like people. I guess everybody's process is their own. I guess they got to come to that acceptance or realization to where they're like, man, I'm only perpetuating this, and then it just keeps going, and then um, the animal nature continues to override, and then they probably have children from a carnal place, and then they
Mm-hmm.
treat their children away, or they, you know, don't treat their children a certain way, and then now the child has certain scars emotionally that just continued. It's like more scar tissue, more and more scar tissue.
Yeah, exactly. And I not just the scar tissue aspect of like the pain of that, but I feel like when I am in that when I'm acting like that inner child, that's when like the irrational like it in other times in my life I don't really have anger like that violent feeling inside of me. But that's when it really happens. Like that's when it happens for me. And even though I don't act it out in a really like in a physically abusive way to anyone. I feel like a lot of almost all of the anger and violence that's going on, or even more calculated, like militaristic violence, is some
I mean,
form of an unhealed.
it's all pretty calculated though. I'm sorry to
Oh
cut you
no,
off.
no, no! Calculate me. Tell me what. Yeah, it is. It is very calculated, I guess. And it's just, you mean the other people are just suffering with their violent inner children? Well, they're being calculated. Yeah.
Because the systems are just a reflection of the natural or the supernatural system. So like all the unnatural systems or whatever, they're just mirrors of the natural system, which is the balance of nature or supernature is so calculated and so balanced. Like they say, the Tao is like a bending of the bow. The top is bent down, the lower is bent up. To keep that perfect balance all the time. It's like there's this constant unseen balance between physical and metaphysical. This dance is constantly going because it's the breath, the in and the out. And so being one, so that the reflections of that being the governments of the world and all that, they're all just more rational reflections of that same thing. So it is it's like an onslaught from the supernatural, unseen world where people are being punished for things that they're blinding themselves to and being ignorant to, so that they get punished supernaturally, metaphysically. They have to.
Okay, I get what you mean now more than I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's like you get the triple whammy now. Like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Full force. So, yeah. And I've also, this is slightly disconnected, but I really understand the whole, like I've been, for a long time, the whole concept, like being being suicidal is such like it's suicidality is like a normal thing in so many levels based on how people live, like actions that we take that are anti health. And it's just like I recognized when I started feeling like, why the heck am I doing these things to myself, that I recognize sort of are like forms of killing myself, and seeing like the no separation in the murder in the world, like the way that I'm murdering myself, like I'm seeing other people getting murdered, and like there's this whole trend in society, and I'm doing it, like I'm literally doing it by how I'm acting. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's a slippery slope, man. It really is. Like it's subtle, like where so you identify with a thought that is not complimentary, and then you start to take these subtle actions towards killing yourself. And people are appalled by people that kill themselves quickly.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, but I don't know which one's worse, to like have a long drawn out 70-year suicide or to get this shit over right now. I don't. I can't really point the finger and say.
Yeah, I can't judge it, but it's bad. Any even fraction of it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the point where you had to get to where you put dead things in your body, whether it's dead animals or food with no life.
Yeah.
That's all the life's been cooked out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god.
Then how many thoughts brought that to a point of manifestation? It's like it's so.
Yeah.
The point of like the beginning to take that step in direction of suicide is so subtle that people just take it for granted, and so now you got a porn culture of people just releasing, and that's suicidal, and they don't look at it like that. It's justified. So
because it's so similar to so many other things that are entertainment, but
it's been normalized. Like the sickness has been normalized, so there's no like point of reference to say like, oh man, like I could live another way. This doesn't have to be, and this is detrimental to all of life, not just me, because I don't have the energy to participate in life and vibrate and refract the energy another way. If I didn't do these things, I would have that energy, and that's just the responsibility, like, and the unseen end of it, where you're like, I know I don't see the results maybe immediately, but I know that this will continue to snowball.
Definitely. Yeah, that's that's what's so serious about it. Um, but yeah, that sort of transitions me a little into the reality of the world where we've got like ridiculously hybridized plants and like billions and billions and billions of livestock everywhere. And now we have governmental systems where um, we perform our role as human livestock in a way like this. It's such a giant topic, but yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the plants and the animals at the moment. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what are some of the signs in society, like to just start learning about things like the like driver's license, birth certificate, all that kind of stuff, like what it represents in terms of our human livestockness.
Like just what it means to be to be cattle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it goes, you know, it go,
so,
at
so
some level it's some unseen farming going on, you know, that just ripples into the physical. You know, like the souls are being farmed and siphoned off, you know, energy being siphoned off, and then that makes the bodies, you know, have less of a soul, less presence. So then
yeah,
they are lacking energy, and then they go and they farm the world, they farm animals and plants, and then it just continues to ripple down into to where, you know, it's just, you know, it's just a ripple effect basically. And so, you know, they got the birth certificate, social security number. The birth certificate number is a stock on the stock exchange, and
mm-hmm.
the social security number is used as leverage for whatever government that you're under to get loans from the central banks of the world. And that's kind of, I guess, the rational end of it. But the irrational end of it would be some sort of metaphysical farming going on that
Mm-hmm.
will be really kind of hard to explain. More so, I guess, experience when you can kind of feel like you're being farmed on a solar level, I guess. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the blood is liquid consciousness, and the blood is just dense breath, and the breath is the spirit, and
Mm-hmm.
the spirit is, you know, pretty much the awareness in physical form, or however you want to look at it, the physical vessel, the light body.
Mm-hmm.
So you could definitely look at it like it's just that people are being used as power plants, like the Matrix and all that type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the physical end of it is really the end, like the latter end of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, though. Yeah, but it's I feel like whenever we get into these topics, like there's so many people obviously in the world who are really interested in trying to dig into like what's the truth behind all these systems. And it's great that people try to understand it, but it's really, if you're in a big state of fear with it, it's just destructive. And being able to not see that as scary and be able to go back to your breath and really like dig into your consciousness that way is the most important thing. Like a child isn't sitting there thinking about the central banks of the world and what a fraud it is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more important that we get in touch with our inner children than we get on the internet and research this. Not trying to make too much of a value judgment there, but just looking at the world, like there's so many websites and there's so much out there for people to try to feel like they're in the know about the conspiracies and about the data mining and just everything. But I just want to like be able to not distract from the inner child as much.
Yeah, you know, just staying to that core essence is it's you know, all that stuff comes from just trying to protect it, you know, and then it further damages it when the more you flinch. It's really It's a wild paradox, really.
Yeah, is there anything else that you could say about understanding that? The other that you like further injure it with your flinching? Like what do you do instead of that?
Well, like the more you flinch, the more that you attract the damage. Really, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like because you're when you flinch, you're kind of taking yourself out of the moment and going into the concepts of what might be, and that's what rapidly makes those things happen. Like they say, uh, fear causes hesitation. Hesitation makes your worst fears come true.
Mm-hmm.
And hesitation is just that slipping out of the moment for a moment and slipping into what might happen, and then that's basically slipping into a parallel reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so um yeah, if I want to keep these episodes shorter than I was before, so I think that I'm going to leave it at that except for I do you know the 11 laws by heart?
Yeah. From Amen to Geb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you could tell them to us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Zero. Yeah, we're gonna
let's
start
hear the real stuff.
Yeah, zero would be the law of Amen, and it's my nature is an unconquerable peace. Therefore, nothing and nobody in the world could be against me. No, no, no. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. The law of Amen is I was made in the likeness of a peace that nothing
Yeah,
can
yeah.
disturb.
Mm-hmm.
I reclaim my peace so that I may attain my reason for coming into existence.
The
And then
enjoyment of life.
yeah, the enjoyment of life. And then the law of Osar or Osiris is my nature is an unconquerable peace. Therefore, nothing and nobody in the world could be against me. All experiences come to me to promote my reclamation of peace so that I may in turn acquire wisdom and spiritual power. And then the law of Tahuti is when all of my thoughts, feelings, and actions reflect the word of God, then a peace that nothing can disturb and the power of God's wisdom and spirit shall flow through my being. And then the law of Sekert is when my emotions manifest in response to the word of God, they have the power to change the course of any and all events in the world. And then the law of Ma'at is God needs me in order to come into the world. Fulfilling God's need is the highest act of love, and only through my love of God can I fulfill my love for others. I've become the love of God in the world for the protection of the world. And then Harakuti is I realize that God neither punishes nor rewards nor protects, and that I have the comfort of controlling these for myself. The law of Haru is I have the power but not the right to ignore God's law. I choose to follow the law of God with the love and joy that grows from understanding and the power of God's wisdom and spirit flowing through my being. And then the law of Het Haru is it's not what I imagine. It's who is imagining. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
divine being, not a human. The law of Sebek is it's not what I think. It's who is thinking and affirming. I'm a divine being, not a human. Then the law of all set is I'm prepared to give up everything to become the vessel of God on earth, and I will in turn receive everything. And then the law of Geb is I realize from heaven I came, and to heaven I shall return, and I do not seek enduring works on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the 11 laws.
And where do the 11 laws come from?
Um,
That's a
from the
deep
meta,
question.
from the meta or the word of God, it's it's uh it's probably the last time the world had a single religion or had one that was functional,
Mm-hmm.
and that really had the interest of cultivating the divine nature instead of cultivating power on a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that it came from you could call it Kemet. That's
Mm-hmm.
where we get in the word. That's where we're getting the word chemistry, and that's basically what people call Egypt today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's something about like yeah, ancient ancient practices. I forget what you said, but it was something about like the older your tradition is, like the more they consider it could be like woo woo or whatever. And not that I don't like that term, but yeah, you've been to Egypt, like you've obviously been interested in this in such a deep way, like
yeah. I lived there for like 7 months. It
mm-hmm.
was it's a shame because a lot of that culture is destroyed. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the ruins that are left, I mean, as magnificent as they are, it's a lot of destruction and a lot of disrespect because, I mean, the people that made those things are no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with people that are capitalizing on that amazing culture that was there. They're basically just selling tickets to a show that they're not performing in. And
Definitely.
yeah, so you go to people think they go to the pyramids, it's going to be somewhere in the middle of the desert, but it's right in the middle of Giza, Cairo, where um, you know not very far, a stone's throw from there is a bunch of buildings and smog and people begging everywhere, and it's just not to point blame or to hate the beggars or anything, but that's what's going on. It's people flicking their cigarette butts there. They don't really care because they didn't make it. If you made it, you respect it. And,
Definitely.
yeah. So it's at some level it's a smack in the face to the Islamic culture because there is no building there's no buildings like Valley of the Kings in Luxor or Abu Ramzi Temple or the temple. I mean, the pyramids themselves. Like, there's no Muslim culture has ever achieved that level of
Mm-hmm.
geometry or architecture. So it's kind of a slap in the face to them because everyone wants to come there for reasons that they don't really have personal value for them things.
Uh-huh.
So it's some people, they can respect it on the ground level. Some younger generations respect it a little bit because of the internet and everything, but um, it's far removed because Egypt got destroyed because they were so benevolent, and then the kindness got taken for weakness, and then they kept getting attacked for generations and generations and generations, and then finally it broke down, and then you had uh, you had the Greeks coming in who were like the Etruscans really. They
Mm-hmm.
came in, the Romans who were descendants of the Etruscans as well. Then you had the Persians, the Ottomans, and then the Arabs. And so it's just a lot of dysfunction, a lot of mixture of those cultures that are pretty much like eroded. They just eroded what was once there. And I mean, it's just it's wild. But it's great though. Egypt's a great place. Don't get me wrong. I still love a lot of the people there.
Yeah,
It's
of
still a
course.
great place. Like, it kind of lets you know, like, humans have been living in this spot for thousands of years, so it's probably going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of lets you know, like, this is a massive mess, but it's still going on, so it can be salvaged.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that to end, in fact.
Word. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess shoot that to me, man, and
Definitely.
you know, yeah. This should be a pretty cool one.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you have so much information. It's
No doubt.
amazing.
I'm hoping that it reaches some people, or I shouldn't say hope, but I'd like to see. I would enjoy seeing it reaching people.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah.
All right,
All right
so
then.
thank you and have a good day. And I'll send
You
you the
too.
MP3. Bye.
Thanks. Peace.
Peace.